Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Right with DigiByte. My name's Mike, and it's another fantastic day on the DigiByte blockchain. And I'm super stoked for today's guest to talk to us about the new DigiByte Foundation. Joining us is Rudy Bouwman, who's the chair of the DigiByte Foundation. Also with us is Lars, who is the vice chair of the DigiByte Foundation. And I myself will be joining this conversation at a deeper level than usual because I myself have also joined the DigiByte Foundation as the manager of community services. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on Get Right with DigiByte. How are you doing?
All good, Mike. Thank you. Hope you're fine as well. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the invite to the Get Right with DigiByte show with you.
Well, great. Well, thank you both for joining us. It's great to have you. And just a quick note for our audience, we're hoping to do a follow-up conversation with two new advisors to the DigiByte Foundation to discuss more technical and development side of things with developer Yoshi Yeager and Jared Tate, who of course is the founder of the DigiByte blockchain. Also still with the foundation is Rutger Kreinon, who is unavailable to join us in this conversation as he is on holiday. We're hoping to insert a quick word from him later in this show. Lars, let's start with you. What can you tell us about, your background and how you got involved with cryptocurrency, and when did you discover DigiByte?
Yeah. Well, hi, Mike. My background is not in particular crypto related. I do have more of a business development background. So I've been a business development manager at heart for the past 15 years. And I was working based out of Singapore. I've been living there for quite a long time. And throughout my career, I've been spending quite a lot of time with creating strategic partnerships, but more importantly, so creating teams that like and enjoy to work with each other. And thus far, I can say for a long period. I think that's important. Teams matter. They are key at work, in life, and I guess they also matter in crypto.
Well, that's great. And what is it that inspired you to join the DigiByte Foundation?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a there's a short or there's a long answer to this. So maybe I take a little bit of a lengthy approach to give you a little bit more of a background info on what I've been doing with the DigiByte blockchain in terms of operation and application of the technology. I stumbled over DigiByte maybe in 2017 or 2018, looking for this DigiSign solution, which was one of the first solutions I think that was launched when Jared Tate, the founder of the blockchain, was still based in Hong Kong, and that was something related to shipping. And I approached Jared and also got in contact with him via mails. Somehow we did not end up applying DigiSign, but a little bit later, because somehow there was some complexities that didn't fit with my operational needs at that time. But a little bit later, I stumbled over DigiID, which I don't know when it was released, but once it was released, I think quite quickly afterwards, I came to hear about it because we did have a lot of issues with forgotten passwords because many times the passwords were assigned by management to people and people just forgot those because it were very inhumane, non-self-created passwords that were assigned. So we did implement DigiID into our operating system, into the ERP system, and basically auto-generated and auto-allocated all people who logged into the system automatically into the right modules by just tapping their fingerprints onto the DigiID fingerprint button. And yeah, that was something that I found very interesting because it made a very easy use case. And after we deployed this plugin of DigiID, because there was no one to reach out to, that's probably the one downside with decentralized projects, I came across the DigiByte Foundation, and we had a development team based from India who basically helped us plugging this in front of our ERP solutions. And once this was done, I reached out to Rudy or the foundation and asked if there could be some kind of a kind of write-up of it, because I thought it was a pretty cool, unique, and maybe we have even been a pioneer or one of the first few people who have operationally integrated DigiID into a corporate environment. And then Rudy has been launching a press release or some media announcement at that time. And that's basically how I got to know Rudy and got to hear about the foundation.
Well, that's fantastic. So yeah, that's, you talked about DigiID. It's one of the many tools that are available through this technology that can help empower individuals to help keep their data and their identity secure. So yeah, that's a fantastic story there. Uh, Rudy, let's jump to you because I know you've been involved with the DigiByte community on a number of levels for a number of years. I know a lot of members of the community are already familiar with you, but for any newcomers, if you could share a little bit about your background and your story and how you got involved with DigiByte and the DigiByte Foundation.
Sure. So yeah, I learned about DigiByte also back in 2017, and I was impressed. I was impressed by the fact that there wasn't an ICO and that it was a grassroots movement. Of course, also the technology is great, great features, really decentralized and permissionless by design. And of course, with a coin that is the ultimate digital currency, in my opinion. So I thought the world need to know about this, and I'm going to support this project. And that time, together with a few other community members, we started the DigiByte awareness team. And we started to support DigiByte and become also a point of contact for developers, businesses, community. And we proactively reached out to exchanges, businesses, crypto wallet suppliers, payment processors. Yeah, and we managed to grow the DigiByte ecosystem and create more awareness. And 2 years later, in 2019, together with two other people, I started the DigiByte Foundation, which is a formal entity here in the Netherlands, with the purpose to support the project, not only financially, but also to become a point of contact for partnerships and businesses.
Hmm. Okay, then I think I got to correct my timeline because then this was still under DigiBets, not yet Foundation, but I think Rudy was heading that or was strongly involved in the DigiBet grouping as well, right? So then
Yeah,
this was the channel. Yeah, then there wasn't the Foundation thing yet.
not before 2019. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah, I remember when I first got involved with DigiByte, it was around the same time as the DigiByte awareness team was created. And, it was a great opportunity, I felt, to get involved with the cryptocurrency space and get involved with blockchain at a certain level because, with DigiByte, of course, it's permissionless and you can do whatever you want with it. And for someone who has a video production background, I felt, well, I can put some videos on YouTube, and from there I was able to branch out and give presentations at meetups. I was a huge proponent of DigiAssets when it came out, but with decentralization, it's a sword that cuts both ways. I could always just kind of you know do everything kind of from arm's length because maybe I just don't want to get involved with any drama, or a lot of times I just didn't really understand this stuff under the hood to really be involved with like development decisions. But I think I feel like humanity is really coming upon an inflection point where we have an opportunity to really advance ourselves and get beyond this this current system of debt slavery and big tech monopolies and constant surveillance. And so we need something like DigiByte. But being decentralized, you've got to be involved, and each person has to be a part of it and needs to contribute at some level to help make it work.
Yeah.
So I know for a lot of people out there might wonder, well, you're all volunteers, well, what's in it for you? I mean, if you're not getting paid, why are you so passionate about this? Why are you putting so much effort and energy into something that doesn't have a direct monetary benefit to you? And so I think it's important for people to know and understand, our motivations to do something like this, because it's important. People are, it's good for people to question these things. As the saying goes, cui bono, to whose benefit? How do you benefit from putting all this time and energy into something like this? So it's important for us to be transparent in our motivations and let people understand why we're doing what we do. And I think that goes a long way with people, especially in today's world. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and being on as the manager of community services. I know it's kind of a very broad brush in terms of what can be done, but I know a lot can be done, and we're already doing a lot of things. So we're going to talk more about this show and other things that will come out in the near future. So, um, Rudy, if I can jump back to you, I know, as you mentioned, you started the foundation in 2019. What are some of the goals that you hope to achieve with the restructuring of the foundation?
Yeah, let me start by saying that I've been really looking forward to this day because it has taken a little time to get ready with this revival of the DigiByte Foundation. So I'm glad we're finally there. Let me give a short recap where we're coming from, where we are today, and how we will be moving forward. Yeah, as mentioned, the foundation was established in 2019 as a formal entity in the Netherlands, so-called stichting. And it was not started to become an authoritative body, but an entity to support the DigiByte project. And that's important to know. So why did we start the foundation? Because being a decentralized project, a movement like DigiByte, and when you depend on volunteers only, it always comes with lots of challenges, right? DigiByte project is a movement. It's not organized like a company with a team that consists of dedicated professionals, or where there are different disciplines, where there's a clear structure, where there are procedures or commitments, or even where you can establish partnerships. That's not possible with DigiByte as a project. So for these external parties, it's very difficult to understand decentralization and to whom they need to speak to if they want to speak to DigiByte, or where to get support or guidance. So with the foundation, we tried to be one of these points of contact. And the DigiByte Foundation has contacts with different type of businesses, like different tier one exchanges, for example, Binance in regards to the listing process. So for businesses, we are able to be involved in calls to represent DigiByte, to provide all the information they need, to explain them about DigiByte, and to help them with the integration. But even when being decentralized, there are always signs of little centralization, right? And also dependency. The foundation was trying to do its best to make DigiByte less dependent on single individuals, because some people were and are still paying for things out of their own pockets. So we as a foundation paid for hosting, for server cost, and of course we will keep doing that. Also, the DigiByte Foundation was trying to make sure that the development won't stall by making these developers bounties available, and that's important to get things done and completed on the development pipeline, right? And I have to say there was money was coming from sponsoring partners, but a large part was coming from the generous DigiByte community. And these donors we call the DGBs because I think we can learn a lot from bees. Uh, Bees are exceptional. They share knowledge. They have a good way of communication with each other, and most important, they always put group interest first. And that's what our community should do as well. We now see sometimes divisiveness, fragmentation, some negativity from time to time, and even fights in public. And of course, we are all decentralized. We're all different, but we share the same vision and goals, and we should be more positive and united. We should embrace differences and respect each other. And for sure, I understand some might be in this for just for the hype and the money in the short term, and that's okay. But I believe a larger part of this DigiByte community is truly involved in DigiByte for the same purpose, and that's to support decentralization, inclusiveness, self-sovereignty and freedom, trust, independency, transparency, integrity, you name it. So after Hans left as chair, I took the lead and decided to make a change and rebuild the foundation. Not only the team composition, but also our plans, the strategy, the focus points, communication, agreements. So what's this reborn foundation going to do? We have defined four pillars, four focus points. And we will zoom into all of these more in detail together with you, Mike, and with Lars, you. Uh, so the first one is global presence. We need awareness in every region in the world in native language. Second one is education. We need to gain and share knowledge. Third one is development. We all know we need more developers, right? And of course, last but not least, collaboration and partnerships. We need alignment. We need to reinforce each other. And of course, we need the funding. So in general, what do we want to achieve? The world needs to know about DigiByte, and DigiByte needs to become more appealing. Not only the technology, but also the currency, because DigiByte is the ultimate digital currency, and we need to promote that. We all know from the white paper that Bitcoin was designed to become a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, but in my opinion, it failed and has more become like a store of value, like gold, right? So I think DigiByte is the true peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and DigiByte is the ultimate currency in the digital world. But of course, besides promoting the currency, we also, of course, need to promote the technology, because decentralized technologies, decentralized secure technologies like DigiByte can and will eventually improve our lives. And I'm sure about that.
Yeah, that's great. I remember when you first reached out to me about this opportunity, and we had our first conversation with you and with Lars. I know we discussed how, because you just brought up this point about, the foundation was not created as an authoritative body. And, I think that's important for people to understand, because, when we talked originally, I felt like, it's important for us to be seen as stewards of the blockchain and not as gatekeepers. We're not here to green light other people's projects. Again, like I said before, it's a permissionless protocol. People can use it however they want. If they want to involve the foundation, great. If they want to do it on their own, that's great too. I think, our ultimate goal is just to, as you said, educate, inform, and let people know that it exists, and all the great qualities about it, and make it such an exceptional protocol. So going back to, the original foundation, what are some of the lessons you've learned from the past, and how can we apply that information going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. Yeah, there were certainly lessons to be learned. I think, however, we as a foundation did really the best we could as being volunteers, like many other individuals and groups in this DigiByte ecosystem. There's certainly room for improvement. I know we're all volunteers, but that could not always be used as an excuse. If you start something and you create certain rules, I think it comes with responsibility and also gives certain expectations. So with the new structure, we have also applied other measures and guidelines to avoid certain mistakes to happen again. And I think people should understand that it takes all of us to get DigiByte in the right direction. Don't just rely on the people that have stepped up to the plate. Don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves, be an advocate, and use your qualities.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's another great point you brought up with just people getting involved to contribute to the protocol and to the success of the blockchain, because being open source, it's very community driven, and like I said, we're all volunteers, but it creates an ecosystem where everyone has a role to play. It's not just, oh, I'm going to stand on the sidelines and let all these other people handle the business, because it's of everyone's interest to be involved at some level. Lars, if I can jump back to you, I know you and we follow each other on Twitter, and I see you posting a lot, not only just about DigiByte, but also a lot about Litecoin and Bitcoin, and with an emphasis on the open source UTXO blockchains, which DigiByte and the rest are, like Litecoin and Bitcoin. So I'm just curious, what is it about UTXO specifically that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and there's also a short and a long answer to it. To give you the short one upfront here, I think I personally am a big fan of honesty and transparency, and I feel that those three blockchains, particularly Bitcoin, Litecoin, and DigiByte, are the three in which I can see honesty, transparency in the way that this blockchain is developing itself, and that there's something finite to it. I think that's a very important point. And in my opinion, DigiByte is, like what Rudy was saying earlier, one of the most comparable chains towards towards Bitcoin. But again, as he was also suggesting, maybe Bitcoin became a lot more of a store of value. I think that's something that most people can agree with at this stage. And I feel that the ones that are left to be truly in sync with this Satoshi white paper is actually the two remaining soldiers here, Litecoin and DigiByte, which remain true to the idea of on-chain settlement as peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? They kind of work as a system for such capabilities. To elaborate further, this proof of work mining algorithm in particular, I feel is something where it represents how the world, I guess, usually works. Meaning there's no such thing as something for nothing. But in proof of work environment, there's always something for something. Someone always got to do some level of work or spend something in order to get something. It is time or effort or machinery in order to produce a coin into circulation. And what I like very much about DigiByte, which I think is sometimes the benefit of not being the first, is the optimizations with how DigiBytes come into circulation. I feel the 1% monthly supply drop, right, rather than halving every 4 years. If you add up the 1% over a 4-year period, you're pretty much coming out at a halving situation as well, plus minus. And secondly, another big one for me, of course, is that DigiByte mines fully out within 2035, which is something that I realized I'm kind of having a certain interest in being a witness of how this turns out, to see a blockchain that is basically in my lifetime to be fully mined. And that's the one thing that I can get from DigiByte. And if I can't witness this, God willing, I will be able to. 2035 isn't that far away, but definitely my kids can. But in the case of Bitcoin and Litecoin, even my kids probably won't grow old enough to see the chain to be fully mined. I'm sure it's going to end well, but I would like to see how does it work once the chain is in full force, and maybe we are in an environment where the use case for it is extrapolated and multiplied in terms of application purposes from where we have been in the past. So I think that's the one thing where I feel Bitcoin, Litecoin are unfortunately not able to give me this lifetime experience of seeing it fully mined, but DigiByte can. And I think that's an interesting, unique point about the blockchain itself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, you brought up a great point too about proof of work. There's been a lot of news lately about, mining. It's going to blow up the planet because it takes so much energy. Which if you dive into the numbers, I think it's just a bunch of hype used to manipulate and control the narrative around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like DigiByte. There's been a push to proof of stake, but like you said, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? I mean, you got to put in the work in order to reap the results. If I want to grow tomatoes in my garden, well, I got to, go out, create the compost, and I got to, plant the seeds and water them and tend to it and make sure that, they have everything they need in order to produce food that myself and my family can eat. Because
exactly, yeah.
Otherwise, things just don't happen by themselves. And so you got to put the work into it in order to get something to come out of it.
And probably endure storms and rain showers in the meantime, and then ultimately the harvest might still be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be challenges along the way, and just as we experience challenges here in our own digital ecosystem, which a lot of things that we're hoping to address as the foundation and as part members of the community to help get these issues resolved.
Yeah.
So going forward for the foundation, I know one of our goals is to create a global presence and to reach out to people all over the world. Of course, it's a global blockchain. So how do we go about accomplishing that in your eyes? How do we go about getting people involved from all over the world to be a part of the foundation and a part of the larger DigiByte community?
I think we need to consider the countries where we have young demographics or large populations, undeveloped or growing economies, countries with a weak national currency, where there's low buying power and high inflation. And it would be great if we have ambassadors that could represent DigiByte there, could be a local advocate and a point of contact for us. People that or groups that are able to make connections with local businesses over there, institutions, communities, key opinion leaders. So yeah, I think that would be great.
Maybe I can add to this as well from my perspective, or to just add to what Rudy is saying. I'm thinking it's oftentimes, or the point for DigiByte, I think, in terms of creating certain level of brand awareness, probably also is a demographic and geographic thing or component to it, because everything has its time, and Bitcoin and the great returns, or the great engagement has already been passed, right? So I think that DigiByte blockchain offers a very big opportunity for developing countries with regards to experiencing maybe something similar like a Bitcoin. And many young generations, they have completely missed it, and it's not because they were late. They just were late in terms of them being born or being there when this technology arrived, right? But again, it's not only from the coin speculation point of view, but it's much more sort of what else can this technology achieve for people, right? In terms of its use cases. And I think there are quite a lot of use cases that can be communicated and that can be addressed towards maybe younger demographics in maybe developing nations, where a certain interest of particularly QR code payments, etc., in a large region of the world is much more applied and used than in maybe the developed part of the world, of let's say Europe or so, right? Europe is not doing it as much as younger areas of the world.
Yeah, there's some great points. Yeah, I know there's going to be a focus on places like Southeast Asia and also South America, Africa and Middle East. These are places where you've got larger communities, and maybe you mentioned their national currencies aren't as strong. For example, here I'm located in the United States, where of course the dollar is still the reserve currency of the world for now. For how long, who knows? But it's so I don't know that we as Americans kind of feel the same stress that others around the world are with their currencies, because they're all tied to the dollar, and it's in a position of where it's strengthening, and their currencies are getting crushed by it, and it's causing a lot of disruption for them. So I think, yeah, there's a great opportunity to reach out to these populations and make sure that they're aware of DigiByte, and that it's it can be a tool for them to as a medium of exchange for goods and services within their own communities and also just around the world. So as far as dealing with other companies, what are some of the ways that the foundation can establish relationships with companies who either want to use DigiByte or build on DigiByte?
I think in regards to relationships, I think we need to distinguish three areas. First, we have the projects or groups in this DigiByte ecosystem that are actively already contributing to the DigiByte project. Second is our other crypto projects that support our vision and value, other UTXO projects maybe. And the third group where we can have relationships with other businesses that integrate DigiByte technology or currency. And so in the first group within the DigiByte ecosystem, I think we need to talk more with groups like the DigiByte Awareness Team, the DigiByte Alliance, but also projects from individuals and enthusiasts, and to see how we can help them grow. And we have to be more aligned and more united, and look for synergies, and above all, support each other, right? So we will be looking for alignment and collaboration with these groups, and try to reinforce bridges and empower each other and the DigiByte ecosystem as a whole. And if we look at to businesses that integrate DigiByte technology, well, we know the most common one, like LC Exchange, Angel, DCSX, Travala, you name them. And and in these partnerships, we can help each other with joint marketing, with joint campaigns, look for synergies, and important, look for use cases. And last but not least, also to get the funding to support DigiByte, of course.
Yeah, I think with a bit of effort, I believe we can position the foundation to be somewhat of a bridge between corporations, individuals, but also the developers. Since developers might be individually harder to find than the foundation, maybe the foundation can act a little bit like a hub in that spoke, to put companies in touch with individual developers and maybe address certain application issues or implementation or embedding situations that could make sense for corporations who are exploring DigiByte technology. I think there are quite a lot of possibilities going forward with this regard to kind of really position the foundation as maybe a main point of contact to interact between corporate inquiries and corporate demands with regards to adoption of DigiByte technology, and then how to put it into where those companies need it to be, because that was one thing that was an issue to me at that time. So I was then looking for some developers that we had for general software applications who then were able to put DGID plugin in front of a system, right? But maybe the DigiByte Foundation can be, like the hub, right, for
Yeah,
such
also
requests.
a very good point, Lars, because we all know that open source and decentralized is nice, but it's hard to work for companies, right? Companies need service level agreements. There's a need for consultancy. They need guarantees on reliability and continuity, and compliancy with certain industry standards is very important. And there need to be auditable security measures and procedures in place. And that's something that the community of volunteers, even the foundation, cannot deliver. It's like Linux. There's a need for Red Hat, and that's where DigiCorp is. That's the reason why DigiCorp exists, right? And I know companies like Lars did with DGID. Companies can do maybe some things itself to make it right, but many don't want to go in that direction and want to be completely unburdened and focus only on their core business.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great idea where, the foundation can serve as a pipeline between the companies who are interested in using this technology and developers that we're familiar with and that have worked on DigiByte at some level, to, connect the two. So, one, the developer can get, perhaps a paying gig out of it, and also the business can get someone involved who is really, has intimate knowledge with how it all works. Because, I suspect a lot of times, might have, president of the company be like, oh, that's a great idea. Hey, Mr. ID department, go figure it out. And the guy working in the IT department might be, he's an expert at networking, computers, but maybe blockchain, he hasn't dabbled in that yet.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there's going to be a learning curve with that. And if there's, if we can create an environment where that IT guy can just reach out with the developer or hire them on a contractual basis as a freelancer, be like, hey, my boss says he wants this installed by the end of the week. I don't help me, and then, that person come in and boom, 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 and it's all done. And it works seamlessly because that developer has all that knowledge and experience working with that technology and can assist the business to implement that technology on their end. I think it's creates a win-win situation because the business gets to use the technology the way it's intended. The developer, he gets an opportunity to get some additional work because, a lot of cases, like you said, Rudy, they're just volunteering like everyone else, really, in many cases, on the development side for DigiByte. And then, DigiByte, of course, gets more exposure in that case. So it's everyone wins across the board. So I think, there's
Yeah, I think that's what it needs to be about. It needs to be having situations where there's three winners. We need win-win-win scenarios for everyone engaging with this. And I think ultimately and over time, I hope we will find plenty of donation streams for the foundation. But ultimately, what must be emphasized when Rudy asked me if I would be keen to help him in the work with the foundation, I really took a long time to give him an answer because, as you know, it's guaranteed to give a lot of work. I mean, onto anyone's desk who gets involved, but it's also guaranteed that we also don't get any payment for it. Yeah, so this is a volunteer role, and I think particularly for developers, this is a problem because development of IT development in particular, I mean, I've been developing our own ERP system, not myself, but I kind of coordinated the whole process. And timelines are very difficult to be met, right? Everyone knows who has been engaged in software projects that they very often take a much longer time frame than initially anticipated. And if now there's developers who are dedicating that much time and it's all unpaid, it becomes a bit unfeasible for good developers to really dedicate their time to a blockchain that works like that. So long story short, I do hope that with our strategies and plans, we'll be able to run the foundation a little bit more like a business, with the intent to collect revenue streams in the form of donations, only to give it out into the DigiByte ecosystem. Yeah, so ultimately, that's important also for transparency. Again, the foundation has its incomings and its outgoing payments as part of the website. And I think ultimately the foundation must be measured by how much is being spent and then where that goes to. And ultimately, I hope we can be working together with the community to identify those areas of development that really need the most effort and the most time spent, and therefore potentially need the highest developer bounties. And hopefully we can find ways to create enough funding in order to pay for those bounties and get those developments done.
Okay, everyone, this concludes part 1 of our interview with the newly revamped DigiByte Foundation. Make sure to subscribe and get notified for when part 2 gets posted, where we continue our conversation with Lars and Rudy. And also, Rutger Kleinon will drop in with his thoughts about DigiByte. Also, keep an eye out for part 3, where we will have an interview with Jared Tate and Yoshi Yeager, who are now development and technical advisors to the DigiByte Foundation. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. And remember, if you're not right with DigiByte, then you're doing it wrong.